Awesome. Now I won't necessarily be able to see everybody that's joining now, so I'll leave that to others in the meeting, although I do see it's Angela that's joined us. So welcome, Angela.
I,
Thank you.
I would recommend turning off the share screen every now and then. Like, don't leave it on the whole time.
Thank you for that. When we do Q&A, I think that would make sense for sure.
Even throughout the presentation, like after you've shown something, then just go off screen for like take it down. So because when you're on your phone, all you're going to see is this blue screen.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. So thank you for joining us today, everyone. We've called this town hall meeting. Oh, okay. Quarter after is the time to join. Is there a way that we can have it not bing every time someone joins?
No, because it's in the settings.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for joining us and welcome everyone. This meeting really is today to have an opportunity to talk about the next steps for Center for Spiritual Living Kenya with regard to our ministerial search and to provide a bit of information around how that process works. There's many options on how that can work. So we want to talk about that, talk about our current situation. And then we do have a recommendation from our board. There'll be a couple of specific opportunities for Q&A. And that's basically our purpose for today. So we want to have you have an opportunity to provide feedback. And if you have questions about the process, we want to be able to share that information in order for understanding. This is really important for our Kenyan team members that are here, our community members that are here, to really understand and learn how this process works. And even for North Americans, if you're part of a center that maybe has never gone through a candidating or hiring process of a minister, this is good learning as well. So I'm going to start with a little bit of quick history, and I will, stop the sharing for a moment. Our history is that in 2013, our center was founded by our founding minister, Reverend Connie Phelps. And then from the years 2020 to 2024, we had co-spiritual leaders, Reverend Barb Samuel and Reverend Gwen Smith, and they were appointed by the board in 2020 upon the passing of Reverend Connie. Reverend Gwen was on a medical leave for approximately her last year of her minister service with us as a community. And so after she retired in mid 2025, from July until April of this year, Reverend Barbara Samuel was our spiritual leader and minister, and she retired, as many of you know, in April of 2026 for the next phase of her magnificent adventure. So I want to just share with you a little bit about our current situation and a bit background. Really, the goal of our boards are to have Center for Spiritual Living Kenya be self-sustaining at one point, self-led and self-sustaining. And so our North American board is our goal is to work ourselves out of these positions so that this community will be its own full-on own community like any of the other centers worldwide. Our global situation is unique. The fact that we have two boards. We have a board in Kenya and a board in North America. And that is based on the model when Reverend Connie started this center. For those that may not know that history, Reverend Connie, when she started, would go to Kenya for 6 months and then come back to Canada for 6 months and work and save money in order to be able to go back to Kenya. That was for the first couple of years before we had many donors or many community members or people that were on fire for the vision and mission of what's happening for this growth in Kenya, to be able to help support the work. So that is why we have two boards as it is, and most of the funding at this time does come from North Americans, which we're very grateful for, both the operations of CSL Kenya as well as the outreach programs that we do, and we are grateful for all of you for that. We've had, over the last 2 years, one of our main focuses was to really deepen the foundations of CSL Kenya. We looked at many of the programs that we were offering and would really examine them to see, does this make sense and is it in alignment with the long-term goal of the community being self-supporting and self-sustaining? So that's, some of the work that we've been doing. Our community also has had a wee bit of change at the end of last year and coming into the beginning of this year. And with another center starting, a teaching center starting in Kenya that is kind of loosely also located in Kenya as well, and is also serving other parts of Africa. We're delighted that this community is still a very strong, have that strong foundation that has been created over the 13 years, but also really the deepening of processes and foundations and programs and teaching of the last 3 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years has really helped us move through this time and change. And I've realized that one of the things that was on the agenda was to do an opening treatment and introductions. And so as I jump right into things right away, so I'm going to pause at this moment and then go into some other of the considerations. And I'm going to invite someone to do our opening treatment for us. But I'll do some introductions as Timo's joining us. I would like to, many of you may know people, but you may or may not know me. I'm much more behind the scenes. I am Reverend Catherine Cardinal. I am the chair of the board of the Center for Spiritual Living Kenya. I'm also a minister serving in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I have been, my history with Kenya has been since day one, or maybe not day one, maybe day 6 months in. I did know Connie was going to Kenya. She called and told me she was going to Kenya because we were very, very good friends. And so, but I didn't know a lot of the things she was doing while she was in Kenya for that first 6 months in her exploratory journey when she met Wilkester and Jeffrey and a few other people to determine. And she actually didn't think she'd land and stay in Nairobi. She was going to Uganda. But anyway, she met some people and put down some roots and stayed in Kenya. The reason I say 6 months is upon her initial return from Kenya, she moved in with me for the 6 months of the year when she was in Canada and lived in my basement suite. And sometimes not in my basement suite. That was when she was married. Anyway, yada, yada, yada. That's my history of Kenya. So I know the whole, all sorts of the stories from the inception of Kenya, from when we started our initial bylaws and creating the organization to where we are today. So I have a bit of historical knowledge. I'd like to introduce also who's other board members we have on the call today. I have Reverend Verona, who will give us a wave. She's joined our board last year. We have Reverend Melody, who's joined our board about 4 or 5 years ago. You're welcome to say something around introduction if you like. We have members of our education team here, Reverend Claire, give us a wave, and Reverend Pat. And we have members of our Kenyan board. Paul is our treasurer for this Conscious Living Foundation, which is the name of the board currently in Kenya. And we have 2 of our ministerial students here today as well. There's Paul waving, thank you. And 3 ministerial students. We have Paul, Christine, and Wilkester, our 3 ministerial students at this moment in time.
You also have Anastasia on the CLF board.
Thank you, Anastasia. I apologize. Thank you, Reverend Mel. Reverend Mel is our liaison to our Kenyan board, and we're very grateful for that. So we also have members of our community. We have from our North American community and people that support us so well. We have Mary and Elisheva. Hope I got this pronunciation right. And from our Kenyan community, we have an unknown person, but we also have Timo, Angela, and Anastasia. So thank you all for joining us today. Now, from an opening treatment perspective, could I ask Reverend Mel, would you open us with treatment, please?
Certainly. I love to treat. So join with me in knowing that there is one God, infinite in being, divine givingness of love into all that there is. And what I know is that God is always omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. And because God is everywhere at all times, in all things, God is here right now. And I speak my word as a unique individualization in the expression that God is. For the Center for Spiritual Living, Kenya, knowing that this community grows and evolves, flows with divine right action, as the teaching is there to support and help each and every person participating, and that this is an attractive teaching, a growing idea in the mind of God and manifest form in expression in Kenya, and that this is a beautiful, loving, growing community. And so I know that everybody whose heart is a part of CSL Kenya is for this evolution, for the highest and best, for the moving forward in leadership, for CSL Kenya, and divine right action for the growth of the community. I am grateful to know these words I have spoken are the truth, and that these words are released with that gratitude back into the law of mind that always says yes. And I release in faith and trust, knowing that beautiful outpicturing from today's meeting is already done, and so it is.
And so it is.
Yes.
Thank you for grounding us. And apologies for not following my own agenda as we start and end everything with treatment. So I will consider continue on with some of the other current situation and background. I think it's important for our community to be aware that we are thriving as a community. We have lots of people in class. Reverend Claire and her co-teachers have, I think, 14 people in the current class, maybe even more. It was 17 at one point. And we are delighted because really education is one of the foundations of science of mind. It's how we change our lives, by learning to apply these principles and practices into our experience of life. Saying that, we do also have financial considerations as a community, and our board manages the financial budget of the community. And we shared that it's kind of started mid-year last year. Our donations are down. We see that that's a commonplace in North America anyway, maybe globally. Donations are down for many nonprofits and organizations in a race consciousness perspective. And CSL Kenya, that is the case as well. That's attributed partly to global considerations around cost of living has gone up everywhere. I know it's gone up a lot in Kenya. We hear that from our students and our community members, and it's happening in North America as well. And so with one of our outreach programs in December, we really noticed when we were talking to donors specifically that people were being a little more cautious with their philanthropy and their donation monies. So our board takes that into consideration in you know, any of the decisions that we are making. So it's just a fact, and fact is not necessarily truth, but we do need to be good financial stewards of the donations that we have been given to allow our work to be done. So I'm going to put the slide back on again for a quick moment so that I can go over. You can quickly see me go through the slides that I've just spoken to. So what we're going to talk about today are the options for a minister or spiritual leader selection, because there are many options. So they're on the screen right now. I'm going to read them, and then we're going to talk about each of these in more detail to create understanding and education around what they mean. The first one is candidating, and that is about, I'll explain the term when we get into the details. The next option is we could hire an interminister. There's a CSL program that actually allows for interministry. There is direct select, which is when there's someone in mind. So sometimes there might be an assistant minister that is being is part of the succession planning, and they could be directly selected to be the next minister, as an example. So there's two options around direct select, and that could be that it's a full-time ongoing minister, someone that we hire, and we do not know the end date for that. Or we could also appoint the person on a shorter term contract. We could leave it, there's always an option to, do nothing, which would be leaving the position vacant for a period of time. And there is also an option that I think we could look at appointing. We talked about this, but it's actually not a viable option. Looking at appointing a practitioner as a leader for a short period of time. That would not be in compliance with our requirements would not be in compliance with our affiliation agreement with the greater organization because of our classification as a center, a full center. So I'll stop sharing and then we'll start talking about those options. So the first option is around the candidating process. And this is an option that many centers do move through. At least 3 or 4 of us on this call have moved through candidating processes before with communities that we've served. I know Reverend Verona has gone through that, Reverend Claire, Reverend Mel, and maybe even Pat too. I don't know. I haven't talked to you about that history if you've been part of that as well. And myself at various centers as being part of the committees or the teams that are looking for a new minister. And maybe even some of you have been involved being a candidate, going through the candidate process as somebody that's applying for the job. This is the opportunity for people to express interest and actually apply for the job. And what that means is we work with a home office to put out a job posting for looking for the right candidate for our community. That program has evolved and become clearer and clearer over many years about some of the things that people need in order to find the right match for a new minister for our community. So there's some pros and cons around this, but I'm going to explain how it kind of works first. A community will actually put together a package. And this is a package that talks about what the community is like, the number of members, the financial status, what programs are being offered, what classes are being offered, the reason the previous minister left, as well as doing a video so that the prospective person that's looking at that application process can really know, does this look like a good fit for me? Is that a place that I would like to live? Is this a community that fits with with my values and vision for my own ministry. It's very important that there is alignment with the vision of the minister and the vision of the community, that those are in alignment, and that the cultures match as well. So then after all of that work is done, that position is posted, usually for a minimum of 6 weeks, sometimes as much as 3 months, for any ministers that are looking at the open pulpit list, it's called, to be able to apply for positions. So then those applications are received by the Center for Spiritual Living head office. They are the piece that they will do is they will confirm that that minister or the person that's applying is in good standing with the organization. And then those application packages are, because the minute that the application will request what is required of the minister that is applying. There's usually a copy of a couple of talks, a resume, in order to be shortlisted. So that the candidating committee or the hiring committee can look at those and potentially shortlist candidates. Now, what often happens is they will shortlist the candidates, and this is all a confidential process, just like recruitment is in other positions. And they will shortlist the candidates to determine who will come and visit the community for an interview, and or sometimes that interview is online now, and or then come to visit the community and provide a talk and often a workshop as well, so that the community can get to know the person. There's often meet and greets, and then the community will have a vote on who they want to hire. That's generally the process. So there are pros and cons to each of the options that we're going to talk about. And so I'm going to share those as well. The pros is it does help a community that may be unclear. It does help them with clarity about who and what they're looking for in a minister. Doing that process. There's some other processes that often can be done as part of the candidating process around visioning and co-creation process to help with that clarity. Sometimes there's differing opinions or thoughts within the community of what the community would like for their minister. And so that helps get everybody on the same page before the interviews start happening, before the applications come in. The cons are that it is a lot of work, and Reverend Claire actually did some of the work for us to be able to pull some of our history together. So I appreciate that. However, the process also does take a significant amount of time, and there's potential costs involved. And in North America, there is definitely costs involved if you're bringing in a minister and they're flying into a community, because there's travel costs, etc. And then on each of the options, we need to be thinking about the compensation that is available for our next minister as well. So that's option number one. I would like to do all the options, and then we'll stop for questions around the whole process. So I just want to give you a bit of a feel. So option number 2 is direct select. And that is where either a hiring committee or a board will directly hire a specific person. So that is somebody that maybe is in mind, that the community has in mind, or it's the next natural leader, or there's been succession planning in place so that somebody maybe has been hired previously in order to move into the senior minister role at some point. And if that work has been happening, then the candidating process doesn't necessarily need to happen because there's somebody in mind for that position. I've known of a few communities that have done that, and that has been the model that Kenya has used up until now. So the pros for this are timeliness. Sometimes that can be much quicker than having a vacancy as the senior leader position. Some of the cons would be that, additional people may be interested in the position, but they are unaware that there is a vacancy. And so, we might be limiting, or in this case, the community could be limiting their pool of candidates. However, our board has really thought about the pool of candidate consideration. And one of the things that we feel is very important for the next position person in Kenya is the person really needs to have background and understanding of Kenya and of our community, because it is unique. And again, the additional information is around, what's the compensation available. Now, direct select can be either somebody for ongoing, that we, like when we, Reverend Connie was direct select, but that was because she direct selected herself. She was the founding minister, right? The Reverend Gwen and Reverend Barb were also direct selects with consultation with Reverend Connie and the board before she passed away. And those ones were for longer periods of time. They kind of had an open end date. They'd expressed kind of, the timeline of what they thought they would like to do the position for, so that we knew there would be some longevity. So that's like an ongoing position. It's kind of like, when you go and get a job, whether you're on contract for a certain period of time or whether or not you're in the position full-time ongoing, full-time or part-time ongoing, with no specific end date. The second option around direct select is also to have either one of those options, full or part-time ongoing, no end date, or a contract position with an end date, or an end date with an option for renewal or review. And sometimes that can be helpful in communities I've been part of, because of either funding or a minimum commitment for the minister for some projects that are going on within the community. So if we are looking, one of the things we are considering is we would like to have the person that we ultimately hire to be on a shorter term contract, because we do know we have ministerial students that are being trained, and we want to make sure that we leave openings for those ministerial students when that program is complete and we have graduates. So we are looking for probably an 18 to 24 month short-term contract, something our board has recognized fits the needs of our community. Welcome, Anne. So then our next option that we talked about was interministry. Now, interministry, as I mentioned, is a program that is run by our global organization, and that is to really have ministers that are specifically trained to go into a community that is in change. Sometimes calm change, sometimes chaotic change. So they have been trained for those kinds of scenarios to be able to help community get the clarity that they require in order to be able to hire a minister. Sometimes communities aren't sure, again, as I mentioned before, aren't sure about what they want. And then how do they figure out what they want? So an interim minister can come and help work with the board, do development, etc., to be able to work with the community on change management, on being open to the next community leader that comes in. Sometimes communities have had a minister for 20 plus years or a very long period of time, and they very much align directly with that person. And there's grief that happens as part of the transition, whether that's because they're on to retirement or something else. And sometimes there was a time in our movement that we didn't recognize how big of an issue that was. We thought new people could just come in. And it was often bumpy for that next minister to come in dealing with all of this unresolved grief and wondering why Reverend Billy doesn't do everything exactly the way Reverend Bob used to do it. And so that sometimes creates challenges and ongoing change for a community that we as a greater organization and all of our communities together have really worked hard to try to reduce some of that challenges so we can have more successful transition periods from minister to minister to minister. Because as Holmes may have said this, but I know Barker said it, it's about principle over personality. And really our teaching is all about the principles we teach, but we as humans kind of attach ourselves to our human people that we love, of course, but then that we do grieve as well, because that's our humanness. So this inter-ministry program was developed and people were trained specifically to help with these things I've just talked to you about. So the pros of hiring an inter-minister is that that person knows they are coming into an evolving situation and they've been trained for it. That some inter-ministers are very successful at leading communities through change. And so the pro is if your community is in need of that, it's a really good option. The cons that we see specifically for Kenya around the inter-ministry program is we believe that the candidates that would be, or ministers that are in the inter-ministry program may have a lack of cultural understanding and familiarity with the Kenyan culture. And there is a specific compensation requirement as well for the inter-ministry program. Just a piece of additional information is an official inter-minister that is through CSL Global. They are not allowed to actually candidate for a position that they are doing inter-ministry for. And that way the community knows up front that this person is here to help lead through change. And the last option is really about leaving the position vacant for a period of time. And that does happen sometimes. When that happens, the board has the responsibility or some of the responsibilities of that the senior minister would have, but they don't have all of the responsibilities. So the pros of this for this community, we believe, are that it allows our Kenyan community members to step into group leadership, to be able to learn, again, practice some of the skills, to be able to step into service and really continue this transition to self-supporting and self-sustainment in the future. The cons around having an inter-minister, one of the things that the board or the education team isn't able to do, it's a responsibility specifically of a senior minister, is to sign off certain processes with CSL head office, specifically classes, practitioner licenses, and renewals. There may be a few others. Those are the three big ones that are important to be aware of. And the RSC is the regional support coordinator. So that's somebody that is in service to the global organization to help with questions of the region. Sometimes the regional support coordinators have time challenges that could, delay certain processes as well. Our regional support coordinator for Africa is Reverend Obaking. Some of you may have met him at the 2024 conference, and he's been busy, very busy right now, with some of the things going on within his specific ministry work. And the last option before we have break for questions, I kind of referenced this one already. Sorry, it's not an option. It is about a practitioner leader. Again, that doesn't work because we are affiliated as a spiritual community center. And so the 5 options that I've presented are the options that we have. So I'm going to stop here for the moment, and see if there's any questions about these options. That's a lot of information. I know our ministerial students have gone through this but it was a while ago. So, but I think it's important that our Kenyan community understand all the thought and considerations that need to come into play in this kind of process. So anybody, I see, while I was speaking, Lamek's joined us. Welcome. Lamek is also a member of our CLF board. And Anne, thank you. I did a quick welcome to you when I saw you, but I was kind of mid-sentence, so glad you're here. Elisheva, question. Thank you for raising your hand. Are you muted?
You'd have myself go first here?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Reverend Catherine. Really honoring this time and grateful that I was invited. Um, I'm part of the global community of the Agape International Spiritual Center, and I've recently been online with the North Hollywood Oneness Center for Spiritual Living that was founded by Ernest Holmes in California. And I know in Agape at least one minister for sure that I get on prayer time with. She's an Agape minister and a CSL, Center for Spiritual Living minister in Salt Lake City. And I know when I come online on Facebook for the Center for Spiritual Living in Kelowna anyway, that this book, if you can see it,
Yep.
you know, do you use life visioning at all?
We do. Yeah. Claire, Reverend Claire is our current leader and is doing that. And prior to that, it was one of our former practitioners that would lead that visioning. It's monthly.
Is this a process that is brought into CSL Kenya at all?
It is. Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
Sorry. Too many words.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
I find it wonderful for going into the emergingness of, it emerges from the mind of God and then being open and receiving and surrendering that to that highest, from myself. It's like I get intuitive thoughts that I know is the intelligence it's spiritual intelligence that I would have never looked at. I find it quite profound. And the synchronicities can be so huge after a while. My consciousness just kind of goes poof. And I have to
Mm.
actually sit down and kind of go, wow, this is happening for me? It's like, it's such a remarkable, and then to see it unfold and being faithful to that vision, that's what I'm working on right now for my future and what it holds. And it's so exciting that there is a Center for Spiritual Living in Kenya. And, I've been a sponsor of Brighton School for a couple of years. I love those dear children. I've never met them, but you know, I talked to God often in the last while about Brighton School and my love for those children. And, you know, it's I guess yeah. Well, I don't guess anymore. I just keep on asking and even just talking to God and kind of going, okay, what do you have for myself here? You know?
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Elisheva. I have a treat for you today, although she just went off camera. I was going to
Ah,
Wilkester is the headmaster of, or the headmistress, I guess, um, the
yes.
headmistress of Brighton School. So I was going to get her to wave to you, but the battery must be getting a bit low on her phone, so she had to go off camera. But Wilkester is here today, and I'm sure she'd love to hear those comments that you made. So thank you so much for your feedback and comments. Okay,
Is she the person I would connect with if I have some questions about Brighton School?
probably yes. The other option, depending
Okay.
what it is, we can talk offline as well.
Certainly, certainly.
Thank you. Okay, questions about the options available for um, the minister selection process. Anastasia, Lamech, Angela, anonymous user person that I'm so curious about. Wilkester, Paul, Christine, Timo.
Okay, for me, I would say a lot of information. This is my first time to be in this session, like this session. But I've listened to all the options. I don't know whether are we supposed to give out what you feel it's like an option that you feel it's okay after listening the information through all the 5 options that we have given out.
I'm not sure I've heard. We are going to the board is actually going to make a recommendation. We just and then we'd open it up for questions again afterwards. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, for me, it's the first time that I was like, after listening to the information, are we supposed to give out the option that we feel? Like, personally, I feel it's okay. So that was my question.
Yes, you're welcome to do that. Do you have
Right
an
away?
option? Yeah, you're personally
Yeah, interim.
interim. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Reverend Catherine. I like that option of just asking people to come in and take up the position that whoever has an interest comes forward. I thought that was a good option because then the center will get the people who have the need and the desire to work. Just sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else?
Hello, good evening, good morning. I think I would actually support. Was it Timo that she talked about interim? So maybe that would be my thought as well. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Lamech. I think it was Wilkester, though, that referenced that and not Timo.
Oh,
Just FYI.
okay, cool.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to, I appreciate hearing from people so far. Anyone else? And I will then share what our board's recommendation is and our rationale for that. And you can see how it matches or doesn't match what we've heard in the feedback of this group at the moment. So, anyone else? Questions? Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen for a moment so that you can see what I'm going to be speaking about a bit. So I've gone through all the different options, talked some Q&A. And so our board's recommendation at this time is actually, and with joy, we'd like to present to you that we would like to propose that we direct select and hire Reverend Melody Bailey into the position of our next spiritual leader. Reverend Melody has had 3 to 4 visits to Kenya. I had needed to double check that. I think I always thought it was 3, and I think she corrected me the other day that it's 4. Melody does know our community very well and has an understanding of the Kenyan culture. She knows our history and what's brought us to this point in time. She recognizes the future for goals for self-sufficiency of the community and has extensive ministerial professional experience. Some of the rationale around our thinking around this, she's attended both of the Heart of Africa conferences, been part of the organizational team of that helped bring those conferences to Kenya, and is our liaison with the CLF, the Conscious Living Foundation, at this point in time. In addition, the reason that we are looking at a direct select option over instead of an inter-ministry program is to do with cost. Reverend Melody is a member of our board and recognizes the financial position that we are currently in, and recognizing that we do not have the same amount of budget available to afford an interim minister at this point in time, and is willing to we haven't negotiated what this could be because we haven't made a decision about this yet, but is willing and recognizes that the honorarium available to her would be less than it has been in the past, and is doing it from a place of love of our community and our teaching and the work that we have done together to create this community. That is a great and wonderful gift for us. She's also looking for a shorter term commitment, potentially 18 to 24 months, which is an alignment because she's also knows that we do and are hopeful that we will have Kenyan leadership from a spiritual leader perspective in the future. So I know a couple of people mentioned the inter-ministry, and it can be a really great option. One of the reasons that our board also doesn't think that's as necessary at the moment. Reverend Mel has taken some of the interim ministry classes, but she is not an official interim minister. Our community, although we have gone through some change and maybe a bit of chaos, we are not in a chaotic place at this point in time. We are very much aligned in where we're moving and the goal of self-sufficiency for the Kenyan community. And we're not sure that an interim minister would give us the benefit that the program generally offers because of not understanding the Kenyan culture. There are things that, I've been involved with this in New Reverend Connie, as I mentioned, for 13 years, and there's still things that surprise me, and I learn every day with my ministerial students about the Kenyan culture and how things are different. And so that's a bit of a longer learning curve, and our board would appreciate having someone that is clearer about that culture and understanding to move into the position. So with that, I've told you a little bit about some of Reverend Melody's service to Kenya. I want to go into a little bit more detail of that. And a couple things that she might not brag about herself too, because sometimes, but she will a little, because she's going to get an opportunity to speak as well. So I've mentioned that she's a board member and has been a liaison between the board and the Conscious Living Foundation, the North American and the Kenyan boards. She's been working on capacity building in with that as well, and really did some of the heavy lifting on building a constitution, which is similar for the CLF, which is similar to bylaws in North America. She is a finance committee member and leads the scholarship committee, around processing the documents, the files, the organization, making sure we're getting marks in and things like that. And helping as we had to transition what that program looked like as well. She is an accomplished speaker. You've heard her speak at Froggy Friday. She has taught some classes online with Kenya, visioning, and also like the former 100 series, the initial foundation classes that we've offered in Kenya. And as I mentioned, the conference committee meeting. One thing I will tell you, Reverend Mel and I first met at an ongoing ministers conference, probably, I think I figured out it was 13-ish years ago. And we were roommates. We didn't know each other. And she's good people. When you slept and traveled with somebody together, you get to know somebody quite well. So, good people is important. Some of the bragging pieces that she may or may not actually share, but I will share, is that she came top in the class for her ministerial written exam. And so I know Reverend Mel is very accomplished. She has on her ministerial resume, she has done and worked or volunteered, mostly volunteer these positions that she's done. She's taught and done organizational. She's gone on board. She's spoken. She's been part of different groups. She has worked on or in almost every aspect of a center's work and journey, from an administration perspective or a teaching perspective or a speaking perspective. So we can answer many more questions about that in the Q&A, but I'd like to actually turn it over to Reverend Mel to be able to speak a little bit more about the other experience and talk about her, as well as her professional experience in her, she's currently semi-retired. Semi is probably not quite accurate. She's gone down to 3.5 or 4 days a week at her current position on contract. So I'm going to stop talking and let Reverend Mel tell you other things. And if she doesn't tell you some things that I think that it's important for you to know, I will also try to bring those up as well. But I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Melody. Oh, sorry. Before I do that, Reverend Mel, I'm going to respond to Paul's comment about how when people, it's important that somebody is interested in the position. And Paul and everyone else on the call, Reverend Mel, when asked and talked about this, she has expressed interest. She's thought about it. I'll let her tell the story. We talked to a few other people that we thought might be interested. She has said that she is interested in the position. So now with that, Reverend Mel, I'm going to turn it over to the Reverend Melody Bailey.
Thanks, Catherine. I appreciate that. And yes, we do go back a long time. It was great to find a fellow Canadian at the conference and to get to share time together. So I have been in this teaching since 2003, and I fast-tracked and did ministry in 5 years, from Science of Mind 100, 200 practitioners straight into ministerial. I didn't know I was going to do that. I knew I was going to be a practitioner. I didn't know I was going to be a minister, but they started the classes and something said to me, you're missing out on the biggest thing in your life. So I had to join the ministerial class. And it was actually the same class that Reverend Barb was in. So we went through ministry together. I have been with the Center for Spiritual Living Kelowna since 2003. So a lot of varied roles there. I even started a small offshoot service in town not too far away, about a 45-minute drive, called Summerland, and did a once-a-month service there and taught classes as well. And that went on for a few years. Unfortunately, most of the people who attended were retired and they all started traveling all over the place. So I didn't keep it going because everybody was always away in different places. But it was a really good experience, and we still see those people coming to our Kelowna Centre. As said, I have taught many different classes. I've been on different roles in the boards. I've done the discovery class and been involved in pretty much every aspect of CSL Kelowna. And we did go through the interim ministry and candidating process for our new senior ministers when our ministers retired. And it was a long, drawn out, expensive process. And when we had an interim minister, they only stayed for 3 months. And we really identified that we were so well grounded, we didn't really need one at that point. We knew who we were, and it was really good to just carry on with our assistant minister leading the way, and that was Reverend Corinne Crockett. So I have done many different things, but I really want to say that when I first came to Kenya in 2020, I fell in love with the country, with the friends I had met. It was just a beautiful experience and it captured my heart. And then when I was invited to join the board and become the liaison for the CLF, it was truly a blessing for me and kept me really connected. I mean, I love it so much. I even went there on vacation last year, as many of you are aware. Not for conference, just to be in Kenya, to meet up with the people who I consider my friends and to see even more of the beautiful country that Kenya is. So I was asked if I would be interested in stepping into the ministry, and I took a long time to think about it because I had always said previously that I only wanted to do co-ministry with another minister. But there is a really solid board for the CSL Kenya, and our president, Reverend Catherine, is available to be there and help in whatever way is needed, as well as me stepping into being the well, not really interim, but short period of time, because 18 to 24 months can go by very quickly. I know that, to be the minister for that. And having talked to Catherine and knowing the educational team is so solid, our board is solid, that I decided, you know what, I can do this. I don't have to have a co-minister. We have a solid group of leaders here on both boards and the ministerial students and an engaged community. So I know I have the skills because I've been doing ministry for, well, since I qualified in 2008. And I know I have the support necessary because ministry is not a solo leading the charge type of work. It is really engaging the community and bringing in the leadership in all the various different ways. Because what I love about CSL communities is that the church belongs to the community in essence. The community is what makes the whole thing. And to be a part of that and to be a leader in that is truly a blessing. And I am looking forward to what more may come. What if I get to be a minister for Kenya? And so when I was asked, I really thought hard and long about it before I said yes, to make sure that it was the right decision to make. put it to prayer. And here I am saying, you know what? I am here. I am willing. I know the community. So there's a few I haven't met in person, but I know the community and I know where we are financially. And I am just really grateful to have been asked and to have the support of the board and the community. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Reverend Mel. Appreciate your cards. I love the term engaged community. And I am here, I am willing, I am ready. That is wonderful to hear. I just wanted to reiterate what Reverend Mel did say, and that is about the ministerial experience that we have on the board and our education team. We have 6 ministers that are in leadership positions. That does include Reverend Mel at this moment in time. It also includes Reverend Barb, who is still currently on our board, as well as Reverend Pat and Claire, who are in this meeting, and Reverend Verona and myself. So there is a lot of good ministerial support. Sometimes when communities are candidating, sometimes they're going in all by themselves into a new role, and that can be a little daunting. I would absolutely agree. So I'm going to open it up for some Q&A. Let me just make sure that I'm, yes, on my agenda. So Q&A, questions about what our board's recommendation. I will also share, I know Rahima wasn't able to attend this morning, but Rahima and I have spoken, and Rahima is very much, as the chair of Conscious Living Foundation, is very much in support of this recommendation as well. And really like the fact that Reverend Mel does know our community and has traveled to it. So, okay, opening it up for questions. Does this mean that we gave so much information that it was so clear that there are no questions at all, or that there was so much information that I have had you glaze over and your batteries are low?
Or that information was too much. We are taking time to absorb.
That is absolutely a great third option, Paul. Thank you for speaking that into the room.
Okay, thank you.
Anastasia has asked a question in the chat about the incoming minister reside in Kenya. If it is Reverend Mel, that would not be the case. It is all the goal eventually that it will be you would have a Kenyan minister that would be residing in Kenya, but that isn't one of the options at the moment. If there was an interim minister, that sometimes interim ministers will move to an area. They don't always do that now. Many are doing that remote as well, and then will come and visit a community periodically as they move through their experience, so that the community is actually still doing much the leading or the boots on the ground work, with the interim minister guiding them. So, Anastasia, do you have a follow-up to that by any chance?
Okay, mine is not a question, but a comment.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm grateful for the work that the board has done to, even to arrive at that decision. I'm happy, and I'm happy.
It's a recommendation at this moment, just so you're clear.
Okay, yes, and I'm also happy for the community. I think it's a good recommendation, and I'm happy for the community, because that choice offers continuity and it's not disruptive, because it's somebody that we already know and it's somebody that we have already interacted with. So kind of I feel at peace, and I feel joyful. And I also want to thank Reverend Mel for being available to take the lead on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Paul. So I'm opening, you know, when I did say Q&A, it can also be comments as well, like a sharing circle of your thought considerations at this point. The feedback will be taken back to our board for additional conversation. I will also share with you that one of Reverend Mel's very strong desires in our conversation was that she felt it was very important to have, I can't remember the exact word, but the community agreement from the Kenyan community for us to move forward. And I would say that is very much in alignment with how Reverend Mel leads, and recognizing where we are in our process of having this community being self-sufficient, that request and desire really fits where we are as a community. Now, I know it's getting late in Kenya because I do teach at this time often as well. Is that, oh, I think I see Jeffrey now. Hello, Jeffrey. So I do know it's getting late, but I am hopeful that there's a few other comments or questions. If I'm the only thing keeping you between from now to bed, I know that might be a bit of a challenge, but I'm hopeful that we can have maybe another 5 to 10 minutes of your time, because I really would like to have your comments. So my WhatsApp information is, if you want to provide comments privately, you're welcome to do so. I put out the invitation a couple of times, so my WhatsApp information is available. If you need to get it, you can also, like if for some reason it doesn't work, people in Kenya that have my direct information, Lamech and I communicate a lot, as well as Paul and Christine and Wilkester. Or you can get my information from Reverend Claire if you're in class with her. There's lots of good options to be able to connect with me. So if you'd like to provide a comment that is more private that you would like the boards to take into consideration, we will be meeting, late next week again. We haven't booked the time, but we know we need to kind of do that timing. So any feedback between now and next Saturday would be helpful and useful, so that we are, fully participatory in this process.
I'd like to add that I'm available as well if anybody has any questions or just wishes to reach out, and I'll pop my personal email in the chat if you want to be more personal and not in a group setting.
Can you pop mine in as well, Reverend Mel? Because I'm open to email as well.
I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Anastasia. I'm just going to make sure there's nothing more that I'm missing. So Anastasia's put in the chat. I realize that not everybody can see that. Thank you for the response. I'm looking forward to welcome the new minister. Thank you for the comment. And Reverend Mel has put the 2 emails into the chat as well, so that is excellent. Okay, so again, I'll just kind of continue on. So our bylaws do currently say that, and it was from when Reverend Connie had founded the center, that the board is responsible for appointing a minister. We do need to look at our bylaws, or maybe the CLF bylaws need to be looked at as well around the process of ministry, because often it's a little bit more open around candidating or hiring. And I do think the intention of that bylaw is that the board would be able to make the recommendation and then hire someone as well, whether they go through candidating or interministry, etc. But like, as I've mentioned, it's really important for us to have affirmation from the community that there is alignment around this board's decision. So this is one of the reasons we wanted to come and have this conversation. I do know that we're missing some people today, so I will invite Reverend Claire to maybe mention and talk to people that are in class. If they want to see this recording, that they are more than welcome to do that, and then provide feedback to us as well. Again, our goal is to be self-sustaining, which means modeling and sharing information about how the center operates so that people can see how the process and logistics work in leading and running the logistics of a center. And often there is a membership vote for, as I mentioned, in the candidating process. Our bylaws don't actually specify that. However, I do know CLF is working on a membership model for CLF Kenya specifically. So in the future, there are those options, and again, that helps build the foundation and allowing the community to become self-sustaining and self-supporting. So I'm going to just ask everyone to participate a little bit by offering doing a quick gratitude circle. And I want to be in gratitude for everyone that helped pull information together for this meeting, people that took a look at the information and made comments and feedback prior to that. Gratitude is one of my things that I really love. I love closing things with gratitude circles. So I will ask everyone to put a word into the room, a word or a statement, and just take yourself off mute and we'll go around the circle, and then we will close with a closing treatment. And before we get into that participatory sharing circle for gratitude, I just really want to say thank you, everyone, for taking this time late on a Saturday night. And also for many of you who are stepping into leadership roles on various teams. Those of you coming to our Saturday monthly gatherings in person, I see more and more people are coming to that, and I'm really grateful for that. I know that was something that the community specifically requested and talked about to Reverend Mel and Reverend and Kelly when they visited in October, I think, timeline. So the request was, we want to have in-person gatherings and we want to have a place we can meet. And my comment from the board was, we have that in Kenya. It's the third Saturday of every month, and we have an office in Tana House. So grateful for those of you that are starting to come together more and more in community, in person, because that connection and belonging is so important to us as human beings. So I'm grateful for this thing called Center for Spiritual Living Kenya. I am going to invite us all to put a word or statement of gratitude into the circle.
Well, I'm grateful for all the organization that went into this, and for everybody who showed up and just showed that the community is engaged. Thank you.
And I am grateful for divine transformation, making itself known through and as each one of us with ease and effortlessness. Thank you.
And I'm grateful for wide open possibility.
And I'm grateful for the ability to connect and share this despite the distance. Thank you.
I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here today and for Reverend Melody for saying yes, and for the internet that has allowed us to be present in this meeting today.
I'm grateful for this moment of us being together. I'm grateful for Catherine making it happen, and above all, I'm grateful for Melody to say yes.
I'm grateful for this community and for the commitment that I see in all of you. It's not easy, but there's just a lot that I'm getting from this, and I'm really grateful.
I'm grateful for clarity.
I'm grateful for this time. Congratulations, our minister. Wishing you abundant wisdom, peace, and continued divine guidance in your service. Welcome. Thank you.
I'm grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for Rev Mel. I'm looking forward to seeing you. And my question is, when are you coming? Thank you.
When I can. I'd love to.
I think there's a couple in the chat I'll just read from Elisheva. I am with gratitude for God's love and guidance to receive, being here with these blessed people for a good future for CSL Kenya. Love, Elisheva. Thank you. I'm great. This is our anonymous user that I'm so curious. I am grateful for the divine guidance that is unfolding for the good of CSL. So thank you, your wise anonymous person. Anastasia has said, I am grateful for the divine guidance in the process of selecting the new minister for CSLK. And I think that's almost everyone. I don't think I've anyone else. I think Reverend Pat. Maybe she's had to step away. So thank you, everyone, for putting those blessings into the circle. And I will ask either Reverend Claire or Reverend Verona if you would like to close us out. Maybe you could do half and half or something. Other ministers in the room.
Reverend Claire, what's your preference?
I'll start and do the first two steps, and then you can finish the last three steps.
Okay.
Love it, you ladies. Thank you.
So we just pause, come together now at the end of this time together, centering ourselves in love, opening ourselves to joy, to freedom, to a sense of peace and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
We remember wherever we are, God is, and all is well. We remember that we are choosing heaven today.
Mm.
We accept and acknowledge that creative power that is in all and through all. We know this is our true nature. We are expressions of that infinite divine energy that we call God. This is true of me. This is true of everyone here. We are people of power, ready, excited to use our creative powers to create something new as CSLK moves into this next phase of its evolving, its opening, its growing. And it's as we stand in this truth that we can speak our word. I pass to Verona.
And so I give thanks. I give thanks for the word spoken. I give thanks for the infinitude of the possibilities of the divine as CSLK. I give thanks for each one of our willingnesses to say, yes, yes, Spirit, we will shift and change and be the truth of who and what you are in, through, and as each one of us. So I give thanks also for our spectacular and wonderful and precious Reverend Mel's saying yes. I give thanks for her willingness. I give thanks for her expertise. I give thanks for her prowess. I give thanks for her wisdom. I give thanks for her mysticism. I give thanks for all of this and the more, knowing that this is already all done in the heart and mind of the divine. Everything we've experienced here today is already gestating and on its way through Spirit itself. For I know that all we need do now is release it and let it go. I release it, I let it go. I step aside in my humanness and let Spirit be Spirit. I leave it in the law, knowing that boundless, limitless love always makes the way, and the law makes it happen. And so it is. Amen.
And so
And
it
so
is.
it is.
So it is.
Asante Sana, everyone.